let's take it down to a micro level. I have lost men over getting a statement in from the state, recognizing that that man has been working for me for a certain amount of time, and they start to garnish his checks and his wages over child support. Well, here's a big thing that stood out to me when I'm sitting there listening to George or one of the speakers talk about how inflation keeps rising prices, but the pay does not go up with it with the rate of inflation. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at that man that's probably got a child support settlement put against him, has left his old job because he can't afford to buy food, come over to me, get found out, and then quit immediately. No issue between me and the man. He will leave or go find a job working for cash in construction. Because because what happens is there's inflation in the market, the price of everything it takes for him to live has gone up. His pay might be the same. I can't afford sometimes to pay all these guys the matching rate because I'll lose. Because I pay taxes on my guys, and I pay them overtime, and I pay them per diem, and I pay them travel time. I write by the book. Whereas other people in construction might pay cash. So for me to win the job, I have to pay a certain rate. And then he gets this thing that comes in over child support, and the next thing you know, between inflation and child support, he's got to quit me and go work somewhere else until he gets found out again. And I don't take any of these men for men that don't want to take care of their children. It just makes it close to fucking impossible if a guy's making $22 an hour slinging steel. You know, or I mean, and I've got guys that make up in the 30s. I've got at least 6 guys that make over 100 grand, and I can tell you right now, most of the guys make money that they would have made if they had a degree, but by the time they inflate the money and the cost of goods goes up, if you have 1 or 2 kids and you have a divorce, it makes it substantially harder to make it.
It's an uphill battle.
It is definitely an uphill battle.
I see that also in sort of our popular discourse, I think, even on channels that I would not necessarily say are quote unquote red pill channels, or certainly not manosphere channels, but if I listen to guys like Andrew Klavan, or I listen to Candace Owens, or I listen to popular, and pick and choose who you want from, like Daily Wire, like Matt Walsh or something, and they do these shows and these analysis of the state of men or the crisis of masculinity, and we need men to man up, and the marriage rate is at 6.1%, and we can't get the fertility rate is very, very low, and men aren't living up to their responsibility, whatever their old school, old order, traditional responsibilities are supposed to be. And we keep saying, well, the answer, the solution to the crisis of masculinity is men just need to take on more and more and more responsibility. But yet, where we're at as far as once again, politics and society downstream from society. We're at a point right now where men aren't empowered. They don't have the authority to meet the responsibilities that we think is going to be this, solution or this cure for this problem of masculinity. And so when I'm listening to somebody like, say, Matt Walsh, for example, and I don't, not to pick on him because I know Candace Owens does the same thing as well, but that seems like it's the magic button. It sounds right. It sounds like, well, men just need to be men and man up and take more responsibility. And yet you're telling me that you're dealing with guys who are in positions where they want to be responsible, but they have to play, they have to play by a rule set that is that's leveled against them.
Or the
economically.
Yeah, and it has nothing to do with sometimes, most of the time, taking care of the kid. Maybe the settlement is some certain percentage of his income, not what it actually costs to raise a child. And so by the time he has that, plus inflation, plus rates staying basically the same, and then gas going through the roof or what have you, or a situation that slows things down like COVID, so we have steel delays, or you heard the guy today talking about lumber and lumber shortages. Lumber going through the roof of like $1,700 a board foot or something of that nature, shutting projects down. So the guys at the mills have to go home. The guys at the lumber yard have to go home. Then what do? Because you still have the child support to pay. And you know, my childhood was really around a lot of child support and custody papers and things that were created by the courts. And my father was the son of a cotton farmer. My grandfather fought in World War II as a tail gunner, came home, farmed cotton in Oxford, Mississippi, built houses. And my dad was not highly educated, didn't go to Ole Miss, went and worked on the farm all day. And when his dad shut it all down towards the end, he went and got a job at McDonald's. Met my mother in Vicksburg, Alabama. She was 19 years old. He was 27. She had me. They divorced twice for cheating. Right?
There's your intersexual dynamic.
You want to talk
There's
about
your intersexual
a red
dynamics.
pill life, right?
Uh-huh.
And she would have buried him in court, but somebody died and he inherited $10,000 and he spent it all on lawyer fees, fighting in court. But I remember growing up, when we would go see him, he had a little shack. It cost $50 a month. We'd eat pimento cheese for dinner. And this man was working 50, 60 hours a week to eat pimento cheese in a house full of rats in the middle of a cotton field. And when I tell you that men are not as shit as they're made out to be. And they're not as cowardice, and they're not as weak, and they're not as irresponsible as people are making them out to be. But the agenda, in my opinion, is to separate the women from the men, so the women will go into the workplace, pay more taxes, get student loans, buy stupid ass fucking tract home houses, put stupid ass photos of Audrey Hepburn on the fucking wall and think they're a bad bitch, and be very unhappy, by the way.
Yes, exactly.
You know?